The IRS has an option known as an offer in compromise, OIC. This lets you settle your back taxes with the IRS for less than you owe. The IRS set up this option for those who absolutely can't pay their tax debt, or if doing so creates a financial hardship. However, it is very difficult to get the IRS to sign off on an OIC. The IRS accepts fewer than half the requests. You can contact the IRS for questions regarding the OIC by calling this number, 1-800-829-1040. You can receive the forms for an OIC over the phone with this number, 1-800-TAX-FORM, 1-800-829-3676. Another option is to visit irs.gov and retrieve the form online. The IRS also has a pre-qualifier tool on their website to let you know if you qualify for an OIC. There are 3 different ways to qualify for an OIC. The first one is known as doubt as to collectability. This is where you are unable to afford the whole tax liability. This will give the IRS doubt that they will be able to collect the bill in full. The next way to qualify is known as doubt as to liability. This will require proof and tax laws that will reinforce your claim. If you have all the following requirements, then you a legitimate doubt that you actually owe the tax. Finally, you have what is known as effective tax administration. This is where you can potentially afford to pay the tax bill, but requiring you to do so would create an economic hardship or be unfair. You will need to fill out forms and have supporting documentation when filing for an OIC. One is known as IRS Form 656B. This is the OIC paperwork for people who are applying based on doubt as to collectability or effective tax administration. The next form is known as IRS Form 656L. This is the paperwork for those who are applying based on doubt as to liability. You will need a number of supporting documents with these forms. These documents will vary based on which option you are applying for. When you apply for an OIC, the IRS will charge you a non-refundable fee of $205. You won't be charged the fee if you meet the low-income certification guidelines. In addition to the fee, you will need to make an initial payment. This payment is generally 20% of your offer if you're making a lump sum offer. You will need to include the first payment if you're applying to make payments on an offer. Then, you should continue sending in payments until the IRS approves or denies your offer. You will not get any payments back if the IRS denies you offer. The IRS will apply the payments to your tax bill. It can be difficult to be approved for an OIC by the IRS. Most OIC applications are rejected by the IRS. It is very crucial to have proof that the offer is the most you can afford to pay. Applying for an OIC requires a lot of paperwork that can be confusing and time-consuming. Basically, you are providing the IRS with detailed financial information so that the IRS can decide whether or not to reduce your tax debt. You will also be required to make an initial payment and stay compliant with tax regulations. It can be difficult to get an OIC accepted by the IRS if you do not understand all the rules and regulations. You need to fill out the forms correctly and make sure that you provide all of the right supporting documentation. If the IRS requests more information, be sure to provide it within the specified time frame. It can be easier to get through the process when you work with an experienced tax professional with a good standing reputation, such as a tax lawyer, CPA, or enrolled agent. The OIC process continues even after the IRS accepts your offer. You will need to remain in compliance with tax filing and reporting guidelines. You can lose the offer and be required to pay the full amount of your tax debt if fail to remain in compliance. Be prepared for a lengthy process when filing for an OIC. It can take hours filing out the forms. This does not include the time spent gathering the necessary documents providing your financial information. After everything is submitted to the IRS, the agency usually responds 6 to 9 months later. Be sure to follow up with the IRS on how the process is going and if the IRS has all the necessary documents. If the IRS issues a rejection to your offer, you have 30 days after the rejection to appeal their decision. The IRS provides the forms needed for an appeal on their website. Sometimes the IRS will reject the offer because there was not enough information, or the IRS believes the offer is too low and you can pay more. It is important to know exactly why your offer was rejected in order to make adjustments for your appeal. The most common reasons the IRS rejects an OIC include: you filed for bankruptcy, you did not pay the application fee, and you do not qualify for the low-income waiver. You recently had a similar offer rejected. The IRS believes the offer was made just to delay collection efforts. You amassed additional tax obligations while the IRS was reviewing your offer. You have other tax compliance issues such as not having adequate withholding, of failing to file a tax return. You failed to send information requested by the IRS within the 14-day time period. You made the decision to make periodic payments but failed to keep up with the monthly payments. Filing an OIC can be a lengthy and complicated process. If you feel overwhelmed, you can always reach out to a tax professional. Just make sure to do some research to avoid scam artists and find a professional with a good standing reputation. Thanks for watching. We hope this video was helpful.